Hey y'all, how y'all been? I'm on here. Let's get her on. Let's get her on. Yeah. So we got Dr. Chris, and now we about to get our special guest.
Mm, 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 mm.
All right. All right. Hey girl, locks is locking.
Lock you. Okay.
Okay.
How
Hi.
y'all doing?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good, good. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and jump into it. Hey y'all, hey, I'm Kyle the Hood Therapist, and welcome back to episode 22 of It's They Speak Your Truth. So, if y'all don't know, as of March 16th, we have made 1 year on our podcast. It's They Speak Your Truth. I'm so proud of us.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
thank y'all to everybody that's been supporting us throughout our journey. Like, thank y'all so much. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and do a recap on our last episode, which was episode 21, and it was titled, "What Are You Waiting For? Permission?" Okay, so we talked about how sometimes we allow others to have more control over our decisions than we do. People may have their own opinions, and it's just that their opinion. You don't need permission or validation from anyone. Okay, it don't matter who it is, you don't need their permission. So the time will come when you're gonna have to stand on business and you have to do what's best for you. So, with that being said, I will go ahead and turn it over to my friend and co-host, Dr. Chris, and she's going to introduce our special guest for today, and we're going to jump into today's episode.
Thank you, my girl. As she stated, my name is Dr. Chris, and this is episode 22 of It Safe, Speak Your Truth. So like she said that we recapped our last episode. So this episode is interesting and we're really excited to dive deeper. So you know how every time you talk to somebody, they be like, I'm a real nigga. You know what I'm saying? I keep it triller. I keep it a stack. But how you keep it real with everybody else except the one you claim you love? How you a real nigga, but you don't do real nigga things? Like, how can you tell people or other men that they need to take care of home? Take care of your woman, man. Do right by your woman, but you're not doing the same thing. Today's topic is keeping it a stack with everyone but my partner. So, today we have a special guest, Mr. Sam McIntyre. He calls himself a student of wisdom because the life he has led has cost him time. But through that time, he says he's learned so much about himself, about life, about faith and love. He also just happens to be my first cousin on my dad's side. He a night war rapper, okay? And we're so excited to have him because we feel like he has so much knowledge and wisdom to share with us. So I'm Sam.
All right, you cut out what you said?
Oh,
You cut.
I said, welcome,
Oh,
Sam.
thank y'all for having me. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
All right, so we're gonna dive in. So I found something interesting. Y'all know I like to read stuff and do research and all of that. So Dr. Annie Tanner Surgeon from Psychology Today, she wrote an article in November 2022 that says if a person grew up in chaos or unpredictability, they may feel comfortable around emotional turmoil. If unhealthy behavior patterns are in play, it's common to see people choosing partners that resonate with their early trauma. She then goes on to say that at the root of unhealthy behaviors related to love is often developmental trauma, where there are deficits in establishing or maintaining healthy relationships. Core attachment wounds, such as betrayal, rejection, invalidation, shame, or abandonment from a primary caregiver, often become the catalyst for later adult patterns surrounding intimacy and love. So, Sam, my first question to you is, what started you on your healing journey, and how has your childhood trauma shaped you and your development as a man?
Um, to answer I guess I'll answer that second question first. My childhood, as far as the trauma, and how I was raised was really, like I said, my father, he was born in 53. And so he came up in a different generation. He came up in a generation also like with pimps. And so my daddy was a professed pimp for a while. He sold a lot of dope in our lives. And one of his big statements was, I'm raising gangsters and thugs. Like, that's how my daddy really did us. Um, he turned me on to my first woman at the age of 10 years old. She was 22. And at that time, that was okay. And even in my heart, I thought like that was the thing to do. Like, I was excited. That was making me into a man. That was making me more into like him. And obviously, as I got older, I didn't realize a lot of my vices were stemming from those type of behaviors, like just crazy problems with lust, not being able to commit to a woman because I had an appetite that was unable to be satisfied by any one woman. Everything I saw, everything I would see, all right, I would have this appetite. And it all developed, obviously, from watching my dad bringing women in and out of the house, selling drugs, obviously having women at his disposal at times because of the drugs, and him just turning us on to women. And pretty much that was the way he gave us wisdom. That was the game he gave us, was always in line with a woman, about a woman. And all that was really detrimental to my relationship to women because of the way I view women, the way I looked at them, the way I thought their purpose was in my life. And so obviously when I would come across good women, I would squander them off. I wouldn't know how to step up to the plate. I wouldn't know how to treat them. And I had women to love me like wholeheartedly, but I wasn't able to reciprocate. It would simply scare me away because I would feel threatened. I would feel like they were too clingy, things of that nature, because I didn't know how to reciprocate. My dad don't trust, don't love. Like, and so, and also in the enemy, I had an appetite to feel. So to commit to a woman mean to basically bring my appetite into control, and I didn't know how to control it. Um, Now going on as far as like what started my healing journey, I was actually in prison in 2013, and one of the mother of my kids, she had rode me for years, man. At this time, I had already did 5 years in prison, and man, she had been riding with me, and my dad eventually died. June 1st of 2013, my dad died. And I had this revelation that it was time to be my own man, that I was following after my dad, and I had to be my own man. And so with my dad no longer in the picture, I began to adopt some new morals, new principles. And these morals and principles totally contradicted everything I had learned as a child, right? As far as a woman's worth, a purpose of a woman in a man's life, a purpose of a woman in this world, the way they should be treated, and the way, in all actuality, the way I treat a woman directly reflected the way I treated myself and what I thought of myself. So all these things was in total contradiction, but I began to adopt these new morals, new belief systems, and begin to implement it. And in that, I would say 2013 was the year I began to go on my healing journey and actually like blossom into an authentic man. Obviously, I thought I was becoming into a man, but my definition of a man at the time was warped. So I would say 2013 was the time I began to blossom into authentic manhood.
Thank you. Just hearing that, coming from a man, like it brings a lot of stuff to perspective. Because men and women, we think differently, right? So just to hear, like your thought process and like how you were raised and the things that you were shown, and just, how certain people think that women are just kind of like, disposable. You know what I'm saying? But it just, it's a good one. Thank you so much for coming on here. And so let's see. So you said you started your healing journey when you went to prison. Is there anything that you think you would have done differently with the women or the woman that you felt like were good women in your life? Do you think that you would do anything differently with them if you could go back?
Um, Obviously, yeah, having the knowledge I have now, the discipline, yes. I was married. I was married for 6 years. I walked away from my marriage, and that's probably been my biggest regret in my life. Just because I do believe, I gave a woman a lifelong commitment to death do us part through sickness and health, and I gave her 6 years, which is a fraction of my life, a fraction of the time I pledged to her. So that was probably my biggest commitment that I've ever broken. Just that commitment before God, we pledged our vows before God, and I broke that. I grew weak, and I didn't have the knowledge I had now that even when I made that commitment, even though I was blossoming into a man, I didn't realize what my commitment would take. That it would take me to be strong in the days I woke up and I began to get tired. In the days I woke up and I began to feel like I was unhappy, or maybe I thought something was wrong. That those were the times. That was sickness and health. That was through thick and thin. And when the times get thin and when things get rough, that's when it's time to show up, and your vows are most important. Obviously, when you're at your happiest and everything is copacetic, it's pretty easy. But when it gets rough, that's when it's going to test your loyalty. It's going to test your faithfulness. It's going to test your grind. It's going to test, are you able and are you willing to go get help, whether it's outside help, being via like obviously counseling. I was totally against counseling. I didn't want anybody else in my business. I didn't think anybody else could solve it. But obviously, I also couldn't solve our problems. She couldn't solve our problems. We couldn't do it within. I didn't have the mental capabilities because I was too stuck in my own thoughts and my own selfishness. So, yeah, if I had the knowledge now, I would go back and do things different. I would definitely have treated women different. I wouldn't have as many bodies on my belt. Um, I would not have played myself. I realized just as women give themselves away, men give themselves away. Like, it wouldn't be so many women out there that can say how big I am, how good I am, what my mouth tastes like, what I taste like. I think it's unfair to, when you do get married, that there's so many women out there that can say, oh, I've had that. I know what that feels like. I know what that tastes like. I know what his love is. Like, and I think that's important. Like, not only you sell a woman short, because I believe for every woman, she needs to be loved. She deserves to have a husband. She deserves to have a family. She deserves to have faithfulness in her life, to have emotional security in her life. I just believe a woman deserves that. So not only was I selling women short, I sold myself short a lot as a man, and I didn't know how to be a man. I didn't think a man deserved it. I thought a man deserved to have fun, to sow his royal oats, so to speak, and just to do his thing. And so I didn't realize how short I was selling myself. So if I had the knowledge I had now, I would go back and definitely treat women different and treat myself different, most importantly.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. I definitely think that's something that a lot of not just men, but women that have been through some trauma and some pain have to hear, because we think, oh, well, I'm living for right now. I ain't worrying about later. But you should be worrying about later, because at the end of the day, the results of your decisions and your actions and how you treat people will become your reality at home. So thank you for sharing that. I do, it's something you said that I really think is important to bring up, is like wanting to apply the knowledge. Like, you learn about it, you realize, okay, this is not cool, this is not how I used to operate or how I used to move, is not what I need to be doing now, and I wish I would have learned or done differently. I think one of the things that we also need to think about is, when it comes to trauma, we all have trauma, right? And we have different traumatic backgrounds that might dictate or influence how we're able to receive love, give love, respond to love, all of that, developing our intimacy, our love maps. All of that is changing or influenced by what type of trauma we've experienced in our childhood. And I think that a lot of us, at one point, even me, struggled with knowing and understanding and recognizing what a healthy love was, right? It comes with boundaries, it comes with reciprocity, it comes with sacrifices, like we've discussed offline before. And I just think that a lot of times we think we're not deserving of that good love, or we're not good enough to receive the good that somebody is trying to pour on us, or give us, or show us, or we're not equipped enough to basically feel all of that, right? And be able to give that back to somebody in the way that they deserve. So I think some of us, we're so, like you said, warped, that we think we're incapable Because I've done this to good women, like you say, or I haven't been able to reciprocate, or I haven't been, based on what I've learned a woman is supposed to be to me or for me or provide to me. I never was able to give that back. I never knew how it what it meant to be a real man or whatever, or have a man of principle and all of this. I think, you know, if you don't love yourself, you don't know yourself, if you don't value yourself, no matter how good a woman is to you or a man is to you, you won't recognize that. Like, you won't be able to give it back, because first of all, you're not doing that for yourself. You're not loving yourself. You're not valuing yourself. And then when somebody comes along that's good and they do that for you, like, let me love you. Let me pour on you. Let me support you. You like, oh, you trying to get over. You trying to use me. You trying to trap me. And I think it's just toxic, right? So thank you for sharing it. Okay, that's all I had to say. Kai?
So you just said something, Chris, and you said, you don't think that you're good enough to be loved, right? So it made me think back to this time I was dealing with this guy, and he literally told me, like, you're like everything, like everything I wanted, but he we ain't together. And I guess it like this conversation is just kind of making everything come to a head because he didn't value himself. He was still out in the street, chasing hoes, whatever. And it's just like, I can't give you what I don't even have for myself. And I had to take that step back and just like realize, like, okay, so it wasn't me. Like, it's something that they have to deal with, and all I could do is just respect that. It hurt, but all you could do is just respect it and just get better, evolve, grow. So all right, so the next question, sometimes now we gonna get back to the title, keeping it a stack with everybody but your partner. So now you might have some friends, your homies, your partners, or whatever, right? Now sometimes they might be hating on what you have. They know that you have something good. They know you have a good woman in your life. You have a good person in your corner. And they see that you're starting to move different. They will purposely come into your ear and start to speak negative on that person because they see that you have something good and they don't want you to have it. And I know that there's a lot of men and women that fall victim to a hating ass friend that are getting your ear. So, how has that ever happened to you where you've had to deal with, your friends, just giving you like bad advice?
Um, you know, me personally, I'm not gonna say I just really dealt with that, but I'll give you some instances. Like, right, when I was in prison, one thing that's big, right, being too sentimental with a woman, being too soft, right, you're a sucker. Like in a where everything is dominant in prison, saying, I love my woman, she treats me so nice. That's almost too soft for a man. So you tend to be a sucker. So I watch a lot of guys, man, these women putting money on the phones, and sometimes these phone calls are expensive, putting money on your books, right? And these things are cost money. These women are holding dudes down, and I would literally see dudes get off the phone with their women and then come bad mouth them just to look cool. Oh, she don't mean nothing. That's just my love. Whatever. That's just my love. Oh, yeah, that ain't really about nothing. You know what I'm saying? That's just she just put money on my book. But these the same dude on the phone, like, I love you. I can't wait to come home. Often the mother of their kids, like often promises of marriage. And so I've seen a lot of bad influence. Obviously I haven't had too many people in my ear just down because I've always kind of been a leader, and I guess I didn't really have to have too much bad influence because my mind was warped already. But now, like say now I have a woman in my life and I see she's loving on me. And I had one guy I was like, oh, you like her? Like kind of like, oh, like he didn't like how she looked. And so but the first thing in my mind was, you want to be impressive, right? Oh man, maybe it's not the one. I want someone that when a man sees, every man is in awe, So but I had to catch myself, like it's not about. Obviously, I don't even want every man to like her. That's probably too much. That's probably too much attention anyway. I hope every man doesn't even like her and like the way she looks. And that's cool. And I have to bring myself back to reality because, yes, people say things that can, if you allow it, it's just trash can in your ears. And for you know, you're walking around with trash in your mind, warping like, oh, maybe this is not the one. All because one person made a comment that you didn't agree with. But I was going to say this because you were saying about keeping it a stack. And the revelation that I got, man, a guy gave me one time, he was like, I was thinking, and I thought became to come to my head was like, what makes you different from a guy that goes sit on a bench and tells on his homeboy? That I could go home to my wife, lie to her, look in her eyes and lie to her, go out and cheat. But I would go to a homeboy who not going to write me when I went to prison, not going to put money on my books. And often when it comes and it's in the thick of things, they're going to turn state. They're going to do what's best for them. They're going to make sure they're straight. But you got women that's in your corner that's breaking their back, that's like going above and beyond, that's putting their own pleasure to the side, putting their own, sometimes their own health, their own sanity to the side just to make it work with you. And you'll lie to their face. You'll cheat on them. It makes you a snake. And I realized as a man, I'll tell any man that you're a snake. And when I was in prison, I began to see a man that would talk about his woman like that when he got off the phone was not somebody I wanted in my company. Because if you would do your woman like that, I know what you would do me as a man that you know nothing about. I know you would cross me. And so I began to look as I began to grow into a man while I was in prison. Obviously, I began to look at those things and I began to change my company. Like if you had a woman and you were speaking highly of her, then that was something different. But if you was a man and you got off the phone with this woman and you downed this woman for putting money on your books or money on your phone and you made it seem like he was just some kind of pimp or some kind of swagged up dude, I distanced myself from you because I realized you're a snake and you're gonna do whatever make you look good. You're gonna go after whatever pleases you. Because I've been that person, I've done that. And so I kind of switched up. If that answers some of your question, I'll give you some testimonial, like what I've seen and what I've experienced. And I just began to switch up the people that I kept around. If it's not somebody that's pushing for you, saying that's what you, if that's what's making you happy, if that's what's feeding into your life, if that's what's producing success, go for it. Doesn't matter how it looks to anyone else, but just go for it.
Wow, you said a lot just now, and I'm still processing it. Thank you for sharing it. Um, I've I've definitely been on the other side of that, like, oh, I'm doing XYZ for who I think is my partner, and then I learn later that they're downplaying the connection or talking about me like a dog to their homeboys. And then the homies looking at me like, oh, you said XYZ about her. And they side eyeing me and they feeling, oh, they probably talking about me with each other. And then I come around and they doing the snake stuff like you said, like you said this about her last night, but then you in her face tomorrow morning. Like stuff like that. It just makes you kind of struggle with trusting. And that's something I also wanted to go into. So when it comes to um like trust and vulnerability, we always talk about this like how do you reconcile all the dirt? Let's say you've done so much dirt and then you come across a good woman and you want to invest and really build with this woman, but you know you've done so much dirt to previous women in your past. What does it take for you to be receptive and okay with what's being presented to you? Like, how do you prepare yourself to receive and give the good love that you said that you've been waiting for or hoping for or are now ready for at this point?
For me, the first thing is forgiveness of yourself. Having be able to forgive yourself. Receive, like for me, it was just to receive forgiveness from God and then be able to forgive myself. And that was a big factor in moving on. And then obviously there's some fear involved, like that you have to get rid of because fear of failing. Because obviously, as a man, I still deal with things. I still deal with temptation, right? I still deal with women. Like I see women, I'm like, wow, she's bad, and that never stops. You see one bad woman, there's another one that's just a little better, another one just a little beautiful, a little finer. Like these things, it's a constant, and so having a maintenance, having a preventative of maintenance in your life, whether that's meditation, whether you're reading good inspirational work, whether you're reading the word. Like, it's just having preventive maintenance, because you're gonna be tried, you're gonna be tempted, and the same things that for why the reason why my marriage failed, when I get married again, I'm gonna face those things. I'm gonna grow tired at times. You're gonna go weary. Your eyes are going to want to wander, and you got to know how to have a preventive maintenance in place to stay locked and loaded, because it's always darts coming jugging. Like, there's women out there just with like a Jezebel spirit that just prey on men, just like men prey on women. There's women out there that just prey on men that look at you as like a piece of meat, and I'll tell you everything that you want to hear, and will say things that will lure you in, that will make you feel good, and you got to be ready. And I think that comes from a lifestyle not only loving on your woman, but having men in your corner that are all loving on their women, trying to love on their women, admitting when they're wrong, coming to you like, hey man, I'm having a problem with this, so you can relate. Like, yeah, I'm suffering with lust lately too. Hey man, I'm growing tired of my marriage lately too. Like, what are you doing? Like, having men in your corner that you can talk to, apart from your wife, but a good source of men that you can talk to and relate to, that you guys all have one common goal. That's to love on those women. That's to be the man that you're called to be. And so I think that's important. It's important to have an open line of communication with your significant other. Like, even that sometimes it's going to hurt. Some things are going to hurt, but having that open line of communication to where you guys trust each other enough to say, hey, this is how I'm feeling. And it might hurt. Like, say, if for some reason my wife was to tell me, so I've been having thoughts of temptation, I might get jealous. It might provoke, I'm like, oh, that hurts. But being able to say, I love you, we're going to work through it. And being able to look back at my own life and say, you know what? I've dealt with that. So I'm not going to put too much on you. I'm not going to make it too big in your life, as if I don't have my own flaws, as if I don't have my own weaknesses, as if it's not about God's grace, I won't be able to stand in this marriage either. I think that's important, because I think sometimes it becomes lopsided. You can't tell me nothing without me like blowing it out of proportion, as if I don't have my own weaknesses, as if I don't have my own deep, dark secrets that you might not know about, as if thoughts don't go through my head that if I allow to take over me will destroy our marriage or will destroy our relationship. And so I think it's good to have grace to say, you know what, be understanding in everything. Like, and being honest. Like, I'm honest with women I'm talking to, as far as like, hey, where I'm at. Hey, this is what I'm working on. If I love you, but I'm learning to love you better every day, because it's still some selfishness I have. And being honest, because I think honesty also brings about accountability. Like, if I'm honest enough, then when you see me coming up short in the area, you can hold me accountable. You can say, Sam, you told me this one day. You say you suffer with this. Well, I see you going out now and you're doing this. You sure this won't become a problem for XYZ? And you're able to be held accountable. So I think an open line of communication, having a good support system of men in your corner, for a woman having a good support system of women. I once heard a man say this: if you go to your friend about your significant other, they should always be saying, not so much like you're wrong, but typically I'll go and I'll say, man, Crystal tripping. She doing this, she doing that. And my homeboys be like, no, you tripping. You tripping. If anytime I go ahead and I say Crystal tripping, I say my significant other tripping about this, no, you tripping. And you need to work that out. You need to make sure we find a solution. They should be helping you find solutions to your problems. They should never be saying, you know what, you're right. Oh yeah, man, maybe it is time to move on. Maybe they should be supporting what your vows say, what your relationship is grounded on. And it should be always solution based. And that solution based should never be quitting. It should never be quitting. It should always be something that's going to be in love uplifting. And that's pretty much my answer on that.
I love that. I love that. And that made me think about a situation that I had. So it was like a guy. We've been knowing each other for like a very long time, like since we was teenagers, right? So we started like conversing like about 10 years later, back talking back again. So I remember we had a conversation and he was like, yeah, I need to check on my partner real quick. And I'm like, oh, why? What happened? What's wrong? And he was like, oh, him and his girl broke up. I was like, oh, that sucks. I was like, well, what happened? Why they broke up? He was like, oh, because he put his hands on. I said, you better motherfucking not call him. I said, so you think that she's supposed to just stay there and get beat and be his punching bag? You think why would she not leave? I said, you better fucking not. I said, you calling to console him. You need to be telling him he wrong. He needs to keep his hands to himself. So it's just like sometimes you just have like those friends that they just enable like your bad behavior, and it's not cool. And then when he and I would, be on the phone, oh you still on the phone? Or you been on the phone since you got here. You ain't gonna get off the phone. And he would get off the phone. Okay, so clearly you like, what we are we together, or are you with them? Because it seems like you value the relationship with your niggas more than you value the relationship with your girl. So I've seen that a lot, and it's just like they really value and hold on to those toxic friendships, and they don't. Your circle, they don't have nothing going for themselves. Everybody, y'all just go get off of work and just hang out and just drink all day, and no goals, no aspirations. And then you have this woman in your corner that's trying to help build your business that you have, and now your friends won't clown on you. But instead of you cutting them off, you want to act funny with me. We not doing that. We could just end it, because I'm not in competition with your friends. I'm not going to be in competition with another woman. Like that's not where I'm at with it. So if this what you want, then act like it. If it's not, then you got to go. So I think that's a big thing that we need to focus on as a community, men and women. Like, make sure that your circle, has your best interest, and they don't want to just keep you lonely because they lonely. They don't want to keep you happy. They don't want to see you happy because they're not happy. And I don't like that. I don't like it at all. But that's really all I have to say on. I just want to share that, because what you said, it just made me think about that situation. Dr. Chris, you have anything else?
On that point, kinda. So it kind of relates to an experience I had. So you know how when we post the flyers for um like an episode, or we're going live on this date at this time, catch us, this is the topic, whatever. I typically put a song to that flyer. So this time I put Lil Boosie, Thug Me Like That. Now people might have not known why I chose that song, but I actually have a funny story about it. So I actually had an ex-boyfriend play this song for me. And he was like, yeah, this is how I feel about it sometimes. And I'm thinking it's some romantic, about that romantic song by Baby, I Love You, all of this. He put on Boost, and I'm like, okay. So I'm listening to the words, and one of the lines he says in the song is, why you thug me like that? I swear to God, I don't mean to. Sometimes I feel like I don't need you. He was like, yeah, that's how I feel about you. I feel like I don't need you. So you telling me you don't care about me, you don't love me, you wish I was not in the picture in song. Like, this is a song dedicated to women that have been dogged out by their man, and you want me to think that's cool. Like, and that just led me to, to the idea that not only is it about having the right circle or being around the right people, whatever, but you have to be good with you, like within you. And like you say, holding yourself accountable. A lot of us struggle with self accountability. It's somebody else's fault. Or I feel like this about you because you did ABC, or you didn't do ABD. Like, you're doing all of this projecting, right? And that kind of leads to my other question that I have for you. So when we talked about not really being able to reciprocate, or not being able to respond in the way that you need to respond when you're in a relationship. So you mentioned that you had to establish your own principles, right? What was your process for that? Like, what did you have to do or heal from? Um, like, not just like what your dad did go into that, but like in your own journey, what were the key things that you had to heal from to be able to hold yourself accountable, like not just projecting or looking at everybody else, but looking at yourself. What was it about you that you had to shift?
I want to touch on something. I'm gonna answer that question about both of you said, and Kai started first about and it. So, like when we have principle as men, I think a lot of times what you were speaking about, what this man did, choosing his friend, I just think that show timidity. Like it shows us as men being timid because we can't stand on like what they call standing on business. Like, man, I like this chick. I'm digging her. Like the way she pushed me. Sometimes we see it, but I mean, I got a reputation, and we value. You said we value things that are worthless because these same guys are going nowhere, and it shows how obviously when you grab new principles and new morals, it does not make it easy to stand on these things because then it takes a snippet. You start cutting people off that's not in line with what you got going. You start becoming more assertive, and people think you're mean because you're like, oh no, that dude, no, don't say nothing about my girl because she gonna be there with nobody else. That's my ride or die. That's my Bonnie and Clyde. That's when you standing on. I don't know. Don't say nothing about her. She off limits. Don't. It's almost like you treat your partner like when if my partner if we behind his back, don't say nothing behind his back. You ain't gonna say to his face like we ain't going for that. Same thing with my woman. We're not going for that. But that's standing on business. That's standing on principles. Like this where I'm at, this what I'm pursuing, and I'm not scared to say it. I'm not scared to stand on it. I'm not scared to lose your friendship behind it or what you think about me. Because if you're not in agreement with it or in line with it, then obviously you might not want the best for me because I'm seeing what's best for me. And so it really just speaks to the timidity of men and really sometimes our blindness because a lot of times we lost. You talked about that song with music. We're lost in what the music is calling us to be. Or rappers who are obviously multi-millionaires are saying this is the life. This is what you need to portray. And for I know I'm trying to portray it. Which is they're rapping so many contradictions. 1 minute they're in their feelings, another minute they gains. It's all contradictions, all selling, but we latching on to it. Men doing years, losing their lives trying to portray a contradiction, trying to portray an unrealistic lifestyle. And so again, it really speaks on the culture and like how the blind leading the blind, and it's hard for us to stand on business. Going forward about like for me, I think it became self-love. Like answering your question, I began to love knowledge so much that holding myself accountable. Say for instance, if I get into it with you, at the end of the night, when I lay down and I do my self-inventory, I'm no longer thinking about Kaya Crystal and what they did to me. I think about what could I have done different to have a different outcome. Because I truly believe that I'm a thermostat and I can direct the temperature in any situation. Now, given that's not an absolute, sometimes things are out of your control, but you know when you've done all you can do to refrain from something or to make the best of a situation. And at the end of the night, you also know like, hey, I could have said this different. Hey, when I was listening with pride. I had my ego in place. So I wasn't hearing everything. When I was speaking from a place of anger. I was speaking from a place of pride. When I sit back and do my self-reflection, I can see those things. And that just comes from wisdom. That comes from wanting to love myself. That comes from wanting to grow. From not wanting to be wrong. One of the ugliest feelings in the world to me that I hate is when you really think you're right and you're wrong and you don't even know it. So I argue with you. Oh, you did this, you did that, you said this. But I refuse to see my part in the situation. So I'm just arguing till I'm blue in the face, and I refuse to see my wrongs. I hate that part. I hate the fact that I lived so many years in that of being wrong and not being willing to accept. No, my main thing was finger pointing, was projecting, was flipping the script. I had a great mouthpiece. Like this talking come naturally, even when I was on the other side of the fence. Man, I would talk you out of being right. We're gonna focus on you. We're not about to focus. You say one thing wrong, and I'm gonna magnify it. I'm gonna blow it up. And that's what we're gonna focus on because you were wrong about that. And I'll never admit that I was wrong. And at some point in time, I began to love myself a little better. I said, I don't want to be wrong. And when I'm wrong, I want to be able to admit it and correct it. And I can't tell you when. I just think it was just a blessing of God just being there to say, hey, I want to be wiser. I don't want to run around a fool thinking I'm right about this and right about that, to the point that I lie to myself so much, I'll never see my wrongs again because I always got to be right. But a wise man will see his wrongs, or fall 7 times and get back up, or correct his mistakes. And that's all about not only being a man, but just being a human being. Like being able to correct the wrongs, because perfection can't be obtained unless you're willing to correct the wrong. For one who's never willing to correct, you take a shooter, if you're never ready to correct your form when taking a shot, you'll never shoot perfectly. You'll never get to a Curry level. You got to be willing to correct your mistakes, to practice. You know what I mean? So that was me. It's just, I started loving myself. I started loving wisdom and knowledge. And I realized while seeking wisdom and knowledge, I found myself wrong a lot, even today. While seeking wisdom and knowledge, sometimes when I have altercations, I find myself wrong. Sometimes it's just my attitude. Sometimes I'm right about the situation, but my attitude towards the person was wrong. And I'm apologizing about that. I'm sorry how I handled that. Not that I'm sorry, not that I believe I was wrong, but I'm sorry how I handled you. Sorry how I talked. I had pride in the way. Like, I had to think about those things. And so whenever it's a way I can be wrong, I also believe that helps the situation. Like if I can come to you, Kai, and I can say, you know what, we had a big argument. And Kai, you were wrong as two left shoes. But I also had it wrong. I say, Kai, you know what, I apologize. You don't have to apologize about nothing. I'm going to come to you first about what I'm sorry about. I apologize for this. I was wrong about this and that. And I would like to have handled that situation better so we can come to a common ground. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. Being on a common ground, having a common purpose, and still going for that common goal that we set before ourselves.
That was awesome. So you said you mentioned a few times, about loving yourself. So how do you love yourself now? Like now that you're on your healing journey and like, you're able to recognize, hold yourself accountable. So how do you love yourself now that you're on this journey?
Um, Loving myself now is it's still hard. All right. I'll just give you an example. Like sometimes it's just watching the music I listen to, because I realize music have a big impact on me. I'll be in my car and I just like to turn the windows down, bump music, but I gotta watch lyrics, because lyrics are seeping into my heart, and before I know it, in my mind, I'm fantasizing about things I shouldn't be fantasizing about. And I know if I act out on those things, I'm not loving myself. I know that when I'm fantasizing on those things, I'm not loving myself. And so it's little things. It's like watching what I put in my ears. Obviously, like taking time to take care of myself, taking out workout, taking care of my health, trying to take care of my health. Accountability. Like some of these practical things about love is not like, it's not nothing gushy gushy. Holding myself accountable, allowing other people to hold me accountable, being willing to be humble in the midst of being held accountable, because that's some of the hardest stuff when somebody's calling you out on the wrong. And sometimes they don't always call you out the way you feel like they should be calling you out. They're being a little too harsh, a little too direct. But even being able to be humble, it's me loving myself, loving the other person. So some of the practical ways that I'm doing it is not probably what people typically hear, but it's really like watching what I let in my mind, watching how far I let my mind go, because where my mind go, my body follows. So if my mind gets warped and start going on these different avenues, there's no way I can love myself. I just won't. Whatever I love in my heart, whatever I put in my heart is going to come out. So I have all these bad things in my heart. It's guaranteed it's coming out at one point or another. If I let lust in my heart, when I get into a relationship and I don't check that, I'm not loving you, because in my heart, I'm not even loving myself yet. I got something in my heart that's not going to allow me to love myself. That what's in my heart is calling me to do some strange things. It's causing me to want to appease an appetite that can't be appeased. So it's like, it's just really watching like what I allow inside of me. And of course, there's some standard things, like self-care, getting my hair cut is for loving myself, right? Those little things like that I typically do, but I don't call that always loving myself, because I did that even on the other side of the fence. But some of these things are just more practical, more straight of like, hey, if I don't have a haircut, I can love on you. I can make you feel like the best, most special woman in the world without a haircut, just by the way I treat you, because of how I'm treating myself. And so it's some things, like I say, some things are like a self-care. But for my self-love, like how I'm loving on myself, it's just really practical of like making sure I'm enforcing my principles and morals. And when I'm not, calling myself on it, because that's one of the things is that for sure I have not perfected it yet, and I have to call myself on it. Other people have to call me on it, and it's just continuing in that journey, never giving up, saying, you know what, I'm still pursuing it. I'm still pursuing to be perfect in my morals and standards.
That was good. Thank you for sharing it. So this is my last question. Um, so with this new perspective, the old Sam, young Sam, let's see, 15, 20-year-old Sam, um, having a discussion or a conversation with today's Sam. What would you tell your younger self?
Mm. And we kind of discussed this, like, I don't know how much I could have told my younger self because I was just so warped in the mind. I think a lot of things were said to me during my lifetime that it wasn't until I hit my rock bottom that everything I knew as truth, everything that I hold as value, when it became worthless, when all my truth was staring me back in my eyes as lies, as falsehood, when all the things that I held truth was causing me destruction, years in prison, broken relationships, broken families, putting me in conflicting positions where I was fighting for my own life. I'm chasing a facade of a life, trying to be a gangster, trying to be a thug that just wasn't me, right? Just wasn't me. I was chasing this thing that my dad taught me. It wasn't until I hit rock bottom. I can go back and tell that young man a lot of things. I don't know if he would have taken it in because it didn't line up with his truth. It didn't line up with my dad said. This faithfulness, getting married, no, I'm going to be a bachelor because my daddy did it. I like that. I love the pleasure. Marriage is a purpose. I love pleasure. I'm searching pleasure, not purpose. And marriage is purposeful. And while it also could be pleasurable, I'm a man of nothing but pleasure. And if it's not pleasure, I don't want it. So anytime a marriage would stop being pleasurable, I'm gone. And so I don't know how much you could have told that young man, because if it didn't align up with his truth, it was through one ear and out the other. But it was life. It was life that began to tell me, and I could no longer deny it. Loneliness in prison, years in prison, like crying on my set, crying in my cell, like not knowing when I'm gonna come home, like no one to come and help me. All those people that I looked up to, all those people I held on to their words, even my dad when I was in prison. No letters, no money on my books, no accepting phone calls. That was my dad. He taught me everything I knew. All those things began to look me back in my eyes as lies, as false, worthless. And then and there was I able to say, you know what? I'm gonna listen to something different. Maybe there's something out there that can bring true happiness, bring true success, bring pleasure, but in a balanced way. Not be too on any side of the spectrum. I began to say, you know what, I'm gonna listen to something different. And so going back, I don't know what you could have told him. I would tell him everything I knew now. I don't know if he would have listened. For me, I think it took life. It took me to hit rock bottom. And when I hit rock bottom with nowhere else to go, I had to look at something different, or else stay in a dark and gloomy place, stay in a place of destruction. And then in there, I made a decision like, no, I'm going to listen to something different because I don't like where I'm at.
Thank you so much for that. This hour went by so fast, y'all. Oh my God, like the time just flew by. Oh my God, I feel like we just started. So I'll go ahead and let me just say thank you so much, Sam, for coming on and joining us on our podcast. Thank you so much. We hope that you come back again. We definitely love to have our guests come back and touch on some other things or do a continuation of part two. But thank you so much again. So I'll go ahead and I'll do our affirmation of the day, and then I'll turn it back over to Dr. Chris, and she'll do the words of encouragement. So the affirmation from today is you can't pour from an empty cup, right? So you have to always remember that it's just like two cups. You are a vessel. Your partner is a vessel. Your friends are a vessel. And if you are empty, your friends don't have nothing to give, then they can't give you anything. And if your partner, the person that you're in a relationship, they're pouring into you, but you don't even know what to do with it because you're empty inside, and it's just leaking out. You have holes, you have things that you need to work on. So just remember that no, you cannot pour from an empty cup, and it's okay to tell, to be real with your partner. It's okay to be honest. It's okay to be vulnerable and have those conversations and let them know, hey, look, I can't be what you need me to be right now, and take that step back. So that's pretty much the affirmation. You can't pour from an empty cup, and self-love is the best love. So always make sure that you love yourself, because you can't love another person if you don't know how to love yourself. So that's it for my affirmation, Dr. Chris.
That was so good, friend. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you, Sam, again for coming on. Like she said, we really appreciate your presence, your energy, and your insights. And my encouragement is just, like everybody has said on here, if there's something that you're struggling with and you know that you can't be the partner, the man, the woman that you are called to be, then it's okay to admit that you can't do that right now, and it's okay to seek help. I just posted something about this last week, asking for help, mental help, all these resources, going to counseling, getting therapy, taking a step back, meditating, going to retreats, doing the things that you need to do to tap into yourself and relearn, unlearn, and relearn from the trauma that you've experienced, the ill insights and the lessons and all of these things that you've had to endure and experience to be the person that you are today. It's okay to do that. And if you're not in a place to be in a relationship or to be a partner, to build with someone, then say that. Don't go out here hurting people because you're hurt, right? That's not fair to them. If you know you have ill intentions or you have no intentions on showing up and being the person that you're supposed to be, then it's okay to walk away. Like Sam said, if you're not ready for that, then okay, cool. Say it, admit it, and take the time and the space that you need to get yourself together. Nobody's judging you. Nobody's laughing at you. Nobody feeling some type of way when you say, nah, I can't show up for you how you need me to show up for you. Can you give me time and space? Maybe at a later date and time, I can be that for you. Admitting that you need help and then seeking the help and then applying the help to your situations and the knowledge that you gain to be a different person, a better person, a more equipped person, a healed person. That's what's necessary for growth and elevation. So I just want to say, seeking help is okay. Using your resources is okay. Not being okay right now is okay as well. So yeah, take the time and space that you need, and you never know. Next lifetime or years later or months later, whatever, you might be in a better position to be a better partner, a better man, a better woman, a better mother, a better father, and just be honest with yourself about where you are. So that's all I have for you. Kai, what you got? Anybody else?
No, girl, that's it. But I just want to say thank you to everybody that is watching. Thank y'all for the comments, for participating. We love y'all. Thank y'all so much. And we will be back with our next live episode. Hold on, let me get my calendar pulled up. So we will be back on April 6th with another episode. I'm so excited. So, of course, we're going to keep y'all posted on the next episode, the title. So, tune in. If you're new, thank you for watching. Follow, like, share, subscribe. We trying to help our people, y'all. Like, we just want to grow. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. You're a little late, but
It's all good,
it's
friend.
gonna be on YouTube tomorrow. So just go back and catch our YouTube. I'll have everything posted later on. But we love y'all. Have a good one. See y'all next time. Bye.
Bye.